Right now?
Now you are.
All right. We need to put that on top. We got everything?
Yep.
All right. We live? All right. Welcome, everyone, to our one-year anniversary of Philadelphia MacAdmins.
Huzzah!
Thank you all for actually coming out to all of these, so we can actually celebrate 1 year. I think it's great that there's been so much interest in the community enough to come out and support this every month. So yes, thank you all for showing up and participating, because without you, we basically don't have community. So, and yes, so and here's to another year of more meetings. So we're going to go right into what's new this month, and there's a lot. First off, we're going to talk about the announcements at WWDC, which was last week. As we do every month, we're talking about the new office updates, because they always have something new every month. Now we're going to talk about the recent Adobe updates as well, which some of you may or may not be aware of. I'm going to follow up on our TeamViewer breach that we talked about last month, and let's go right into it. So WWDC. You talked about it last week, and there's lots of new features for Mac OS, as they've now rebranded OS X, which is a big deal. That the open secret that everybody's been talking about for a month beforehand. As well as iOS 10, watchOS, tvOS, lots of great new stuff coming. Some of which will directly affect us, some of which won't. So yeah, a lot of the big changes that are coming were not mentioned in the keynote, and we'll talk about a few of those as well. Like major, world-changing events that are coming that weren't mentioned in the keynote, because all everybody want to hear about the keynote is all like the new features of extra emojis and stuff. So there is a WWDC app that if you had it during the WWDC, you could use it to stream the sessions. But now it archives all the sessions, so you can go in and look at all the videos, which for some of the things I'm going to talk about, you're probably going to want to go find the videos where they talk about, because I'm not going to be able to cover it all in this one little section. So the WWDC app, that's a link to the GitHub repository. If you have auto package, Alistair has a recipe that will grab it for you. And you can just do auto package run wwdc.install, and then you can just have it. It'll run right there. So you don't even have to work very hard to get it. So the only thing that's not in those trainings is the Q&A labs that they do. Those were not filmed. But fortunately for us, Rich was there. So, and this link is to all of his notes from the sessions he attended, and he attended pretty much all these sessions that you guys are probably interested in anyway, like what's new in managing Apple devices, and what the new file system lab that was there, because Rich is the file vault guy, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But of course, the big announcement for us, macOS Sierra. So, the features they talked about in the keynote, Siri is coming to macOS, Apple Pay, you can use the Apple Watch to unlock your Mac, which I'm sure InfoSec will be thrilled about. The Universal Clipboard, also another thing InfoSec and Data Integrity will be thrilled about. The iCloud Drive is getting some enhancements. The one big thing there is now they're enforcing code signing, which means that right now in Gatekeeper settings, you have the option to turn Gatekeeper off. In macOS Sierra, you will not have that option. So everything will have to be signed. You will still be able to whitelist, just right-click open and say, are you sure you want to open this? And you click yes, and then you can open it. That'll work for packages and installers. But by default, everything has to be signed. So if you guys do any internal app development, now is the time to make sure you start signing all your apps and installers if you need to. And we can talk more about that during our open discussion. There's a little source for that if you want for later in the slides. So the big news, of course, is the brand new file system, APFS. So it's going to be coming. It's a preview currently in Mac OS Sierra, and the plan is apparently to debut it officially on stuff that ships in 2017. So this is going to be covering everything from the Apple Watch to the Mac Pro and anything that runs any version of the OS. So the preview, if you've followed any of the, if you've read any of the analysis online and or talked to some people about it, it's limited in that you can't boot from it currently. It won't do Time Machine or File Vault. And I'll talk about this later in the open discussion. A couple of things that I found. So, so pretty much Apple's been saying that if you want to play around with the new file system to create a separate partition, I think Disk Utility in macOS Sierra streamlines that process pretty seamlessly. So you can just do one on the fly and just play around with it. One of the things that it does is that it's basically built like a modern file system. It's pretty much like if any of you followed what like the whole like will Apple adopt ZFS kind of thing. This basically is like what would happen if ZFS actually was made by Apple. So it's a lot of they hired a bunch of people who were involved with ZFS and to work on this, and they've been hiring lots of file system guys for years. So and this is the result. One of the things about it that's going to impact us eventually is going to be it's native file encryption at the file level. And my notes say here it's you have the option of either no encryption for files, single key encryption, or multi-key encryption with per file keys and another key for sensitive metadata. So you'll be able to basically partition and segment off different sections of the file system depending on how sensitive the data is. So you could theoretically, as I understand it, basically build like a wall around corporate data with using a different key than you would for personal data. So at least that's the way I understand it. I'm not versed in that, but I guess we'll find out as we go along. But what else? So yes, so even with the new with Sierra, AFP is I think finally going away. It's currently not in the preview, so I don't know if it's going to make it in the preview. But all hints from Apple saying it's like, yeah, we're probably going to retire it. So SMB is probably going to be the file system for file sharing of choice, the protocol for file sharing of choice going forward. So those of you who have, use Casper and have AFP file shares, distribution points, time to start migrating those to something else. So, or just switch them all over to SMB. Also, the file system will have the ability to do snapshots and clones natively. So there's going to probably mean major changes to Time Machine coming soon as well. We'll wait to see whether it actually, they still call it Time Machine after that because of the way. But from the way I understand it, it should be able to handle everything that Time Machine does much more efficiently if it's all done natively on the OS. So Time Machine may end up being more reliable on future OSs. So there we go. Also, of note for us particularly, there's lots of new MDM settings and restrictions coming. Of note is, in my notes that I have here, is that VPN will drop PPTP. So that's going away completely. So I hope nobody's using PPTP anymore for VPN, because one, I'm tripping over it, and two, it's very, it's very 90s. So it's time to bury that. Let's see, actually, no, I had some more stuff here. It's in my notes here. So if you got any of you using DEP with Sierra, you'll be able to use DEP to upgrade to Sierra. You'll be able to force the upgrade using DEP through Sierra. So I don't know of anybody who may. It's impossible to like verify that at this point because it's beta, and I don't think a lot of people are still using DEP yet, at least for Mac OS. At least not here among us, unless somebody is.
I'm testing them.
So I mean, I haven't. I'm going to be testing it shortly too, but we still haven't got it up and running yet. So you'll also be able to configure the IP firewall. So yes, I think that's IPFW on the command line. So you'll be able to have a profile that configures that locally for all your Macs. So and there's actually going to be like more restrictions coming to like Apple Music, iCloud Photo Library, iTunes Radio, back to my Mac, find my Mac. So you'll be able to configure either restrict or configure those as well. And I'm sure there'll probably be more as we go along, but those are some of the big things that we know as of today. So, and now iOS 10, lots of stuff in iOS 10. Third-party Siri access, so other apps will be able to use Siri. So you can use things, as the examples they did was like you can tell Siri to call you an Uber, or reserve you a table at using that was a Yelp or something, open table, yeah. So and they made mention of this during the keynote about how they bought a company that helped them improve the AI for Siri. So they also mentioned something about like 3 billion requests from Siri a day or something like that. So I know there's been a lot of talk about like how Siri is kind of like the redheaded stepchild between like Cortana and whatever Android uses, but what?
Okay, Google.
Yes. Yeah. So hope their hope is that this kind of spurs it, because I think there's more of that coming along. So they redesigned the lock screen for like more expanded 3D touch notifications, which InfoSec will probably want to restrict. Raised to wake, which I could take or leave at this point. And they messages gets a big overhaul. Made it more slacky, as I said, slackified. With all this extra stuff that you can do to make messages more interesting or more modern. Also, we got a home app coming for use with HomeKit. So, and so if anybody has like any smart home kind of things, you can probably be able to use the home app to manage that stuff. So, at least from our side, I think there are plans to, if anybody does the Xfinity Home stuff, to plug that into Home app, but I think that's maybe coming. I don't know. So you didn't hear that from me. So let's see what's up. I guess so. Maps and Apple Music gets a redesign. Maps, especially, I think, will probably be more useful now and more accurate now. That's the implication from I got from the keynote. So,
Twice nothing is still nothing.
The other thing that seems to be, that I never understood personally, but people are very excited about would be the stock apps. They won't go away completely. You'll be able to re-download them from the App Store, but since they'll be permanently assigned to your Apple ID, but you can finally remove them off the device if you're into that sort of thing. So, talking about giving photos Siri intelligence, which basically means that they do advanced facial recognition. So they talk about it in a great deal of length, but it's basically facial recognition that you'll be able to sort photos for you based on some things. So it'll automatically sort people. Like if you identify somebody as someone, then grab and index all those pictures with that person in it. So you can automatically create an album with like your wife in it or whatever, or your kids. And for those of you that have those. So the big thing on the management side is Apple's School Manager. This probably could have rated a slide of its own, but I was running out of time. So there is a link to Rich's notes, and of course, you want to watch the video as well for what's new in managing Apple devices. They talk about this a lot, and they do a demo as well. So for those of you in education, that's a definitely must-watch, especially if you're dealing with iPads, Mike. So you definitely want to do that. And of course, the big thing that kind of went under the radar is that there's going to be an MDM payload to manage Bluetooth.
It's on or off, right?
Yeah, it's just on or off. But like once it's on, but you can actually do that. So if you, the link is from, I forget the name of it right on my head. But if you use iBeacons at all, that's always been a problem. Because you could turn Bluetooth on or off. And if somebody has their Bluetooth off, they can't take advantage of like the things you have set up with your iBeacon. So if you manage iBeacons and you want people to actually use the iBeacons, whether it's like you're sending a Wi-Fi profile to people who walk into a conference room, like for example, or setting up like different restrictions or doing something based on location, you can now manage the Bluetooth, make sure it's always on, so that stuff always works. So that's a big thing there. tvOS, TV10. So improved Siri. I don't have the tvOS, so I don't know how good or bad it is, but anything that proves that. Big things to me, it sounds like the single sign-on for all the TV apps. So you're not going to a website, downloading code, or trying to type in code to match up, and then authorizing your TV app to talk to the service. And when they're talking about the demo, they're also talking about that setting things up, like for those of us who use Xfinity, so you automatically sign in to an Xfinity app, so you can get that. And that'll also work for different apps that use the Xfinity ID. So, like I think it's like ESPN or
Like the Showtime,
HBO stuff. So
that's really annoying. I'm glad they did that.
Yeah. So yeah. I also mentioned they're going to make a remote for the Apple TV for iOS devices. So either you lose your TV, your remote, or don't want to actually go look for it. You can then use it on your phone.
There's actually a neat feature about that is if you go to any text field in iOS 10 or in tvOS 10 and you have data for iOS, it'll automatically pop up your keyboard.
Yes. That's actually mentioned in one of the other points. But yes, so you'll be able to use your iPhone with Apple TV as a keyboard to enter stuff that needs to be entered. So, but you can get third-party controllers for games now, so it doesn't just use the Apple remote to do games. So you can probably get like a controller for that as well. They do the dark mode, and as I said, using the iPhone as a keyboard if you need to. And then lastly, there's WatchOS. The big thing with WatchOS is the instant launch of the apps, which I don't have one, so I can't say it's been problematic for me. But there's a lot of people who've said it could be better. Basically, the gist I got from WatchOS 3 is now it's ready for prime time. Better dock and control center apps. So I think it's like making more use of Scribble. So it's basically you can instead of like prompting you to say, do you want to reply or anything like that, it just does things. Plus new watch faces because everybody loves those. The SOS, you can call emergency services directly from the watch. So
it's a country agnostic too, so it's not going to call 911 for everything.
Right. So and yes, and activity sharing and Breathe, which I read about, but I forget whatever it right now. But so more things. But basically, WatchOS 3 is when I think it's now at the point where it's mature and probably going to mix and do some serious damage on market share. So actually make you want to buy a watch. So Office 2016 updates. As I said, we do this every month because every month they have something new and exciting with the Office 2016, whether they mean to or not. So this month it fixes CPU spiking issue that was affecting some users in Outlook. Some other crash fixes as well in this one. There's some new features as well. The big one is export to open document format is now available for those of you who need that. And the edit message function returns in Outlook. So it's not something I missed, but there was certainly enough demand for it to come back.
I actually did hear about it. Like,
So yeah.
I was really surprised. Yeah.
So yes, also they revved a Office of 2011 to 14.65. This is a security update. This fixes a hole that could result in root privilege escalation, I think, if somebody created a maliciously crafted Office document. So if you're still running 2011, you definitely want to make sure that your 2011 is patched with that one. And the big news is that 64-bit Office arrives in August. So there's been a lot of talk about that. If you're in the Microsoft Office channel and Slack, you know they've been talking to all the plugin vendors and telling them, say, migrate your plugins to 64-bit now, because this is coming soon. So definitely August is when we're getting 64-bit Office. And from the sounds of it doesn't sound like it's going to be a major pain to install, upgrade. But I guess the canaries in coal mound will be like all those of us who are in the fast insider track who'll get the bits for it like within a month or so. Yes.
Did they specify whether they're going to be individual updates or whether it's going to be you're going to have to push the full installer again?
They have not said that yet. My impression is that it's probably going to be part of the regular update cycle. So each app is going to be getting their 64-bit version coming in August. So it doesn't sound like there's going to be a change. There's going to be a necessitated change in how you're updating Office right now. But I guess we'll know more the closer it gets to launch time. So, but yes. So if you have anybody who uses any Outlook plugins or Excel plugins, make sure you want to probably start pestering those vendors right now to make sure they're going to be ready when 64-bit Office drops. So you don't have any surprises, hopefully. Okay, and next up, we're going to talk about Adobe updates. For those of you who don't know, Adobe released some major version updates this month. This is not, Creative Cloud 2016. This is a bump to 2015 still. 2016 is supposedly coming later in the year, but this is just like, oh, we're just doing some major stuff now here. So, so the big news is that some of the apps in the Creative Cloud that got bumped are now using the new installer method. I think RIBS it is. So some, like if you're using RUM, those updates are not showing up because they need to be reinstalled, essentially. So, and yeah, that's my understanding from reading all the chatter in the Adobe installs channel this week from on Slack as well. So yeah, all the stuff went down on Slack this week on that channel. Most of it was about all the confusion about the naming, like why things are named the way they are, the inconsistent versioning, like Photoshop is now 2015.5, but if you look at the CF Bundle minor version, it's something like 15.7 something. So, or like Illustrator is now 17.0, but it's also 2015.3 in the label. So, yes. Also, some plugins locations have changed as well. So, so it's all booby traps from Adobe this week. So, yeah, as I mentioned, most of this has been documented in the Adobe installs channel on Slack. So people like Foigus and Patrick Fergus and Tim Sutton have been leading the charge on that. And Carl Gibson from Adobe, who also monitors the channel, basically been soliciting feedback. So be sure to, if you're on Slack, be sure to check out the channel, get his request, and if you're having problems with all the new changes, make sure you send him a DM or an email so he can send that to pretty much all the teams who are responsible for making your lives miserable. So, all right, next up, we're going to talk about, we talked last month about how TeamViewer was hacked. And after the initial panic died down, mostly what it seems to be is that TeamViewer believes that most of the hacks have resulted in people using shared passwords, like sharing passwords between different services. And with a couple of the recent breaches within the last, I'd say, 6 months, it's pretty much been people have been using the compromised passwords they found on other services and finding it works on TeamViewer. So there's been a big push, at least from the security side of things, now saying don't do that. Stop doing that. Stop doing that now. So with things like go to my PC and Pandora, and I got an email from Pandora the other day. It's like, so we think your password was linked to this other thing, so go change your password just because. So, yeah, definitely go to my PC has also been a victim of that. So I made sure to tell my wife who uses that. They told their people, so everybody's been changing their passwords for that. So if you use go to my PC and you're shared in mixed environments, make sure you get on that as well. So. So just another plug for the MacAdmins podcast. So if you're not checking it out, please go ahead. It's like basically Slack on the radio, as I say. So you'll be able to hear all these people talk, and that's where you can get subscriptions for it. So, and of course, this will be the last month we talk about this because it's next week. We're talking about the MacAdmins conference in Penn State. So, as you said, next week, there is actually still time to register and go. There's still hotel rooms. There's still slots available. But registration closes tomorrow, and the price is $70.99. So if you can swing it, please come join us. Because we want as many people there as possible, so we can, mob people.
Who's going, by the way? Show of hands.
Yes. There we go. So we got a pretty decent representation. So yeah, so we'll have to take over a corner of the bar.
You guys gotta have maybe t-shirts or t-shirts. Yeah.
Something really obnoxious.
Yeah,
That's good.
we'll have to do that. So. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the for my What's New segment. So I guess we'll take a little bit of break, get everybody fed, and then we'll just have the open discussions, or it begins now. So. There may be some NDA things we want to talk about, so we will kill the streaming for that. So we can do that. So.
Want me to kill it now, or?
Yeah. So we'll see you next time.